Interview preparation step by step. PHP CodeIgniter interview questions and answers. Advanced level 8+ years experience. Question 1. What is CodeIgniter? Answer. CodeIgniter is a lightweight PHP framework for building web applications. Question 2. What are the main features of CodeIgniter? Answer. Features include MVC architecture, lightweight framework, built-in security, and easy database handling. Question 3. How do you install CodeIgniter? Answer. Download from the official site or use Composer to install it. Question 4. What is MVC in CodeIgniter? Answer. MVC stands for Model View Controller, which separates business logic from presentation. Question 5. How do you configure a database in CodeIgniter? Answer. Modify application/config/database.php with your database settings. Question 6. What is routing in CodeIgniter? Answer. Routing allows you to define custom URL structures using application/config/routes.php. Question 7. How do you load a model in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use $this greater than load greater than model _name in your controller. Question 8. How do you create a library in CodeIgniter? Answer. Create a file in application, libraries, and load it using $this greater than load greater than library _name. Question 9. What is a helper in CodeIgniter? Answer. A helper is a collection of functions to assist in tasks like URL handling and form validation. Question 10. How do you enable error logging in CodeIgniter? Answer. Configure error logging in application/config/config.php by setting log_threshold. Question 11. How do you manage sessions in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use the session library with $this greater than session greater than set_userdata and $this greater than session greater than userdata. Question 12. How do you perform form validation in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use the form validation library and set rules with $this greater than form_validation greater than set_rules. Question 13. How do you handle file uploads in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use the file upload library with $this greater than upload greater than do_upload, file_input_name. Question 14. What is HMVC in CodeIgniter? Answer. Hierarchical Model View Controller, HMVC, allows modular application development. Question 15. How do you send emails in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use the email library and configure settings to send emails via SMTP. Question 16. How do you create a REST API in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use CodeIgniter REST_controller or custom controller to create REST APIs. Question 17. What are hooks in CodeIgniter? Answer. Hooks allow modifying framework execution without changing core files. Question 18. How do you use caching in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use $this greater than output greater than cache, n, to enable page caching for n minutes. Question 19. How do you handle multiple databases in CodeIgniter? Answer. Configure multiple connections in database.php and switch dynamically. Question 20. How do you prevent CSRF in CodeIgniter? Answer. Enable CSRF protection in applications/configs/config.php and use hidden CSRF tokens. Question 21. What is autoloading in CodeIgniter? Answer. Autoload allows loading libraries, helpers, and models automatically from autoload.php. Question 22. How do you debug in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use error logging, profiler, and debugging tools to troubleshoot issues. Question 23. How do you use Ajax in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use jQuery Ajax to make asynchronous requests and process responses in CodeIgniter. Question 24. How do you implement authentication in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use the session library and database to create login and registration systems. Question 25. How do you handle pagination in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use the pagination library and configure settings to generate paginated results. Question 26. How do you use CodeIgniter's built-in encryption? Answer. Use $this greater than encryption greater than encrypt, and decrypt, to secure data. Question 27. How do you implement role-based access control, RBAC, in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use session variables and middleware to restrict access based on roles. Question 28. How do you create a custom config file in CodeIgniter? Answer. Place a PHP file in application, config, and load it using $this greater than config greater than load. Question 29. How do you handle 404 errors in CodeIgniter? Answer. Customize the 404_ override route in applications/config/routes.php. Question 30. How do you use CodeIgniter's query builder? Answer. Use active record methods like $this greater than db greater than select, insert, and update. Question 31. How do you optimize database queries in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use indexing, query caching, and optimized joins. Question 32. How do you implement search functionality in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use like conditions in queries or full text search for large datasets. Question 33. How do you handle JSON responses in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use JSON_encode, or CodeIgniter's output class with application, JSON header. Question 34. What is the difference between GET and POST in CodeIgniter? Answer. GET sends data via the URL, while POST sends it in the request body. Question 35. How do you use CodeIgniter's URL helper? Answer. Load it with $this greater than load greater than helper, URL, and use functions like base_URL. Question 36. How do you handle large file uploads in CodeIgniter? Answer. Increase upload_max_file size in php.ini and use the upload library. Question 37. How do you create RESTful controllers in CodeIgniter? Answer. Extend REST_controller and define GET, POST, PUT, and delete methods. Question 38. How do you use transactions in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use $this greater than db greater than trans_start, and trans_complete, for atomic database operations. Question 39. How do you integrate third-party APIs in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use curl or guzzle to make HTTP requests and process API responses. Question 40. How do you perform email verification in CodeIgniter? Answer. Send an email with a verification link and validate upon clicking. Question 41. How do you use CodeIgniter's calendar library? Answer. Load the calendar library and pass data to generate custom calendars. Question 42. How do you create and use hooks in CodeIgniter? Answer. Define hooks in application/config/hooks.php and enable them in config.php. Question 43. How do you secure file uploads in CodeIgniter? Answer. Validate file types, use random file names, and store outside the web root. Question 44. How do you manage multiple environments in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use the .env file in CodeIgniter for or define custom environment constants. Question 45. How do you integrate CodeIgniter with Vue.js or React? Answer. Use CodeIgniter as a backend API and Vue.React for front-end rendering. Question 46. How do you enable gzip compression in CodeIgniter? Answer. Set $config compress _output equals true in config.php. Question 47. How do you track user activity in CodeIgniter? Answer. Log actions to the database and use session tracking. Question 48. How do you create a sitemap in CodeIgniter? Answer. Generate XML dynamically from the database and serve as a sitemap.xml file. Question 49. How do you create a multilingual website in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use the language library and store translations in language files. Question 50. How do you integrate Google reCAPTCHA in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use Google's reCAPTCHA API and validate responses in your controller. Question 51. How do you handle authentication in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use sessions, password hashing, and authentication libraries like IonAuth. Question 52. What is the difference between libraries and helpers in CodeIgniter? Answer. Libraries are classes with advanced functionality, while helpers are procedural functions. Question 53. How do you create a custom helper in CodeIgniter? Answer. Create a file in application, helpers, and load it using $this greater than load greater than helper. Question 54. How do you implement social login in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use OAuth and libraries like HybridAuth or Socialite. Question 55. How do you store sessions in the database in CodeIgniter? Answer. Set $config ses_driver to database and configure session settings. Question 56. How do you use CodeIgniter's cart library? Answer. Load the cart library and use methods like insert, update, and total. Question 57. How do you create a dynamic menu in CodeIgniter? Answer. Store menu items in a database and fetch them dynamically in views. Question 58. How do you handle errors in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use try-catch blocks, error logging, and CodeIgniter's built-in error handling functions. Question 59. What are migrations in CodeIgniter? Answer. Migrations allow you to version control database changes and apply updates. Question 60. How do you use CodeIgniter's unit testing? Answer. Use CodeIgniter's unit testing class to write and run test cases. Question 61. How do you optimize session management in CodeIgniter? Answer. Store sessions in Redis, memcached, or a database for scalability. Question 62. How do you create a cron job in CodeIgniter? Answer. Write a CLI controller and set up a cron job to execute it at scheduled intervals. Question 63. How do you use JWT authentication in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use libraries like Firebase JWT to generate and validate tokens. Question 64. How do you handle database transactions in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use $this greater than db greater than trans underscore start, and $this greater than db greater than trans underscore complete. Question 65. How do you enable debugging in CodeIgniter? Answer. Set environment to development in index.php and enable error reporting. Question 66. How do you restrict direct access to controllers in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use access control checks and session-based authentication. Question 67. How do you prevent SQL injection in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use query bindings and active record methods to sanitize input. Question 68. How do you generate PDFs in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use libraries like tcpdf, fpdf, or dompdf for PDF generation. Question 69. How do you implement WebSockets in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use a WebSocket server like Ratchet or Pusher for real-time updates. Question 70. How do you create custom CLI commands in CodeIgniter? Answer. Extend CodeIgniter SCLI controller and define custom commands. Question 71. How do you implement breadcrumbs in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use a helper or manually create breadcrumb navigation in views. Question 72. How do you load multiple models in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use $this greater than load greater than model name, multiple times as needed. Question 73. How do you create a sitemap dynamically in CodeIgniter? Answer. Fetch URLs from the database and generate an XML sitemap. Question 74. How do you use event listeners in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use hooks or observer patterns for event-driven functionality. Question 75. How do you deploy a CodeIgniter project to a live server? Answer. Configure database settings, update base URLs, and enable production mode. Question 76. How to implement JWT authentication in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use Firebase JWT to encode and decode JWT tokens for authentication. Question 77. How to prevent SQL injection in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use query bindings, active record, and input validation. Question 78. How to manage environment variables in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use the .env file in CodeIgniter 4 for secure configurations. Question 79. How to create a custom helper in CodeIgniter? Answer. Define functions in application, helpers, and load with $this greater than load greater than helper. Question 80. Difference between filters and middleware in CI4? Answer. Filters are predefined hooks, while middleware offers flexible request handling. Question 81. How to implement Google OAuth login in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use the Google API client library for OAuth authentication. Question 82. How to handle multiple sessions in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use session keys and separate configs for multiple sessions. Question 83. How to optimize CodeIgniter performance? Answer. Use caching, indexing, optimized queries, and minified assets. Question 84. How to set up cron jobs in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use server-s cron scheduler and a CLI controller. Question 85. How to secure API endpoints in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use API keys, JWT, and CORS policies. Question 86. How to handle image uploads in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use the file upload library with validation. Question 87. How to use encryption in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use $this greater than encryption greater than encrypt, and decrypt. Question 88. How to configure database failover in CodeIgniter? Answer. Define multiple database configs and switch dynamically. Question 89. How to create a CLI command in CodeIgniter 4? Answer. Use the Spark CLI tool for custom commands. Question 90. How to log SQL queries in CodeIgniter? Answer. Enable logging in config or use $this greater than db greater than last _ query. Question 91. How to implement Google Analytics in CodeIgniter? Answer. Add the Google Analytics tracking code in the header view. Question 92. How to integrate Redis caching in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use Redis PHP extension and configure settings. Question 93. How to prevent XSS attacks in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use security helper and escape output with XSS_clean. Question 94. How to handle file permissions in CodeIgniter? Answer. Set correct file permissions and use chmod. Question 95. How to manage dependency injection in CodeIgniter? Answer. CodeIgniter 4 supports dependency injection via service container. Question 96. How to create custom pagination in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use the pagination library and generate links dynamically. Question 97. How to use the profiler in CodeIgniter? Answer. Enable profiler in config.php for debugging. Question 98. How to integrate SOAP APIs in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use the PHP SOAP client class for SOAP API calls. Question 99. How to handle global errors in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use custom error handling and configure logging. Question 100. How to implement WebSockets in CodeIgniter? Answer. Use WebSocket libraries like Ratchet or Pusher. Thank you for watching our video on interview preparation step by step. Feel free to comment with any questions. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.